Hello, we are going to learn about the differences between the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. This is a drawing. We have the somatic nervous system, and this is the neuron of the nervous system and the effector organ, and there is divisions. So this first part is the central nervous system. The second part is the peripheral nervous system, and then the effector organ. We have the autonomic nervous system, which comprises of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And these are the neurons involved. So the purpose of this lecture is to know the differences between the somatic and the autonomic nervous system. So let's start in terms of the effector organ. In terms of the effector organ, let me write here. In terms of the effector organ. What is the effector organ for the somatic nervous system? Skeletal muscle. What is the effector organ for the autonomic nervous system? It's the cardiac muscles and the smooth muscles. Remember, we find the smooth muscles in different parts in the hollow organs of the digestive system, of the urinary system, of the reproductive system. So all the smooth muscles and the cardiac muscles, obviously the cardiac muscles are only found around the heart. Those are the effector organs for the autonomic nervous system. They are called effector organs because they are able to respond to the directions by the nervous system. So in terms of the effector organ, we're moving on. We know the differences. Number 2, in terms of a ganglia. Ganglia. What is a ganglia? A ganglia is a neuron that has got its cell bodies outside the central nervous system. So if the cell body is within the central nervous system, it's not a ganglia. So let us check the differences between the somatic and the autonomic nervous system in terms of the ganglia. So this is the neuron of the somatic nervous system. This neuron, where is the cell body? This is the cell body. Where is it located? Is it within the central nervous system or outside the central nervous system? It's within the central nervous system. In the peripheral nervous system, under the somatic nervous system, do we have any cell body? No. So that means there is no ganglia in the somatic nervous system. Let's check in the autonomic nervous system. Do we have a ganglia? So here is our first cell body. Where is it? It's within the central nervous system. Okay? This is not a ganglia. Let's check this other one. This cell body. Where is it? It's outside the central nervous system. It's in the peripheral nervous system. So this is a ganglia. So that means in the autonomic nervous system, we have a ganglia. That's the difference. Somatic nervous system does not have, but autonomic nervous system does have. Okay? Then, the third difference in terms of the efferent pathway. In terms of the efferent pathway. Firstly, what is efferent pathway? It's movement of impulses or response from the brain to the different parts of the body, to the organs of the body. So it's the direction from the brain coming downwards to give instruction. So in terms of that pathway, what is the difference between the somatic and the autonomic nervous system? So with the somatic, can you see there's one-way neuron? There's just one neuron all the way to the effector organ. So there's one-way neuron. In the autonomic nervous system, both under the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, see there's two neurons involved. So it's not a one-way neuron, it's a two-way neurons. There's this neuron and this neuron. There's neuron and this neuron. So there's two-way neurons. That's the difference. This one, there's only one-way neuron. This one, there's two-way neuron in terms of the pathway. Now, what is this green thing here? This thick squares surrounding the neurons. It's representing the myelin. What is the myelin? It's the sheath that surrounds our neurons, right? So this sheath that surrounds, it helps with impulse conduction. The speed, it increases the speed of transmitting the information. So let's check the differences in terms of myelination under somatic and autonomic. Under somatic, there's only one neuron and it's myelinated. Autonomic nervous system, there's two neurons. There's the first neuron called, this is the preganglia and this is the postganglia. This one is myelinated, this one is not myelinated. This is myelinated, this is not myelinated. That means there is differences in the speed. Here there is increased conduction of the speed, and here there is slowness simply because of no myelin. Even here there's no myelin. Let's label the neurons in the autonomic nervous system. So this first neuron is called preganglionic neuron. Why this name? Because this is not a ganglia. We agreed initially it's not a ganglia because the cell body is within the central nervous system. So it's called preganglia because it's just before the ganglia. This is a ganglia because the cell body is in the peripheral nervous system, not in the central nervous system. So this is a ganglia. Just after the ganglia, we have postganglionic neuron. Also the same labeling goes under the parasympathetic. We have preganglionic neuron, and this one is the postganglionic neuron. Okay, so now we gave the differences in terms of the different pathway. Now the last difference in terms of neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter. What is a neurotransmitter? A neurotransmitter is an endogenous chemical. Endogenous meaning it's produced within the body, and it's an endogenous chemical that facilitates communication amongst neurons throughout the body. That is a neurotransmitter, a chemical that facilitates communication amongst neurons in the body. So, what is the differences? Let's take a different color, the red color. Now, in terms of the neurotransmitter, so these small green things here, they are called the neurotransmitter. So what is the neurotransmitter released by the neuron of the somatic nervous system? It is called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine. There is also a neurotransmitter released there. There is also a neurotransmitter released by the preganglionic neuron. It's also acetylcholine. Also in the parasympathetic at the preganglionic neuron, we have an acetylcholine released. Again, because parasympathetic pathway has got two neurons involved, the neurotransmitter released in the parasympathetic at the effector organ by the postganglionic neuron is the acetylcholine. And then there is a different neurotransmitter released now by the postganglionic neuron in the sympathetic nervous system. It is not acetylcholine, this is a norepinephrine. So that is the differences between somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. In terms of the effector organ, the somatic is the skeletal, the autonomic is the smooth and the cardiac muscle. And the the somatic does not have a ganglia, whereas the autonomic has got a ganglia. Efferent pathway, there is only one neuron pathway in the somatic and two-way neuron in the autonomic nervous system. Neurotransmitters, there is a acetylcholine released everywhere except in the sympathetic neuron at the postganglionic neuron just before the effector organ is the norepinephrine. So that is the differences. Any questions? Let's talk in the comment section.